The coffee in Commander Hyenwoo's cup was still warm when the alarms started screaming. Red lights flashed across the command center of Earth's defense station, and every screen in the room suddenly went black. Then came the transmission that would change everything. Hyenwoo had been reviewing routine patrol reports. When the emergency signal from the Galactic Council broke through all communication channels, the massive wall screen flickered to life, showing the pale, frightened face of Council Leader Vextar. Behind him, Hyenwoo could see other alien delegates running in panic. Emergency Protocol 7 is now in effect. Vextar's voice trembled. All species must evacuate immediately. Duh. The Devourers have returned. The screen shifted to show footage that made Hyenwoo's blood freeze. Massive black ships, each one the size of a small moon, moved through space like hungry predators. They passed. Entire star systems simply vanished. Planets, moons, space stations, everything was consumed by some terrible technology that left nothing behind but empty void. They've been dormant for 10,000 years, Vextar continued, his alien features twisted with fear. But now they're awake, and they're moving toward the core systems. Every civilization in their path must evacuate now. Hyenwoo watched in horror as the footage showed the destruction of Kepler Station, a massive alien outpost he had visited just last month. The black ships surrounded it like vultures, and within minutes, the entire structure was gone. Not destroyed, consumed. As if it had never existed at all. Across the command center, Communication Officer Myra looked up from her station with wide eyes. Commander, I'm getting evacuation signals from everywhere. The Zentari are abandoning their homeworld. The Karathi fleet is retreating from the Outer Rim. Even the Veldans are running. Hyenwoo had never seen anything like it. Years of military service, he had witnessed many conflicts, but he had never seen entire civilizations abandon their homes without even trying to fight. The communications board lit up like a Christmas tree as species after species broadcast their retreat. Sir, Myra said, her voice barely a whisper, they're all leaving? Every single one of them. The young woman's fingers flew across her console. As she intercepted message after message, her face grew paler with each transmission she decoded. The Arcany Empire is evacuating 12 billion people. Stellan Republic is abandoning their core worlds. Commander, they're not even taking supplies. They're just running. Hyenwoo stood and walked to the large observation window. Outside, he could see the lights of passing alien ships. Hundreds of them, all moving away from the galactic core. Ships that had been his allies, his friends, his trading partners. All fleeing in terror from an enemy none of them would even attempt. To fight, how long do we have? He asked quietly. Lieutenant Park, the tactical officer, checked his sensors. Long-range scans show the Devourer fleet is 3 sectors away, moving at maximum speed. At their current rate, they'll reach human space in 72 hours. 72 hours. 3 days to prepare for an enemy that had just made the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy run like scared children. The communication system chimed again. And Ambassador Janae's face appeared on screen. She was in the council chambers, surrounded by empty seats where alien delegates had been sitting just hours before. Her expression was calm, but Hyenwoo could see the steel in her eyes. Commander, she said, I'm transmitting the official evacuation. Orders now. We have 48 hours to begin civilian evacuation. All military personnel are to assist with the withdrawal. The orders appeared on Hyenwoo's screen, official documents with the council seal, demanding that humanity abandon Earth, Mars, and all outer colonies immediately. It's the same orders that had been sent to every other species in the galaxy. But Janae wasn't done talking. She looked directly into the camera, and Hyenwoo saw something in her expression that surprised him. Not fear, but determination. However, she continued, I want you to know that I've made a decision regarding these orders. Without warning, Janae picked up the physical copy of the evacuation documents. In front of the few remaining alien delegates, she held them over a small flame. The papers caught fire, burning completely to ash while the aliens watched in shock. Humanity will not be running, she announced. We will not abandon our worlds. We will not flee like frightened animals. If these devourers want our planets, they'll have to take them from us. The alien delegates erupted in panic. Hyenwu could hear their voices through the transmission, all speaking at once in their various languages. Words like impossible and suicide needed no translation. Mira looked up from her station, her face a mixture of terror and admiration. Commander, the last alien ship just jumped to hyperspace. The Galactic Council is officially dissolving. We're completely alone. Hyenwu turned back to the observation window, where moments before there had been hundreds of alien ships. Now there was only empty space. The lights of fleeing vessels were already fading into the distance, leaving humanity isolated in the darkness. His communication system beeped with an incoming message from Earth Defense Command. General Kim's voice was steady but serious. Stations, this is Command. As of now, we are on our own. Begin defensive preparations immediately. This is not a drill. Hyenwu looked at his crew, young men and women who had signed up to protect Earth, never imagining they would face something like this. Myra met his eyes, and he saw no fear there, only determination. 72 hours, he said quietly. Let's make them count. Outside the window, long-range sensors detected the first signs of the approaching Devourer fleet. Dark shapes moving through space, consuming everything in their path. They had never been stopped, never been defeated, but they had never faced humanity before. The engineering bay of Luna Station had never been this busy. Sparks flew from welding torches as engineer Du Yan worked without sleep for the second straight day. Around her, teams of technicians stripped apart mining equipment, trying to turn peaceful tools into weapons of war. The irony wasn't lost on her. Humanity's most advanced technology was still primitive compared to what the fleeing aliens had taken with them. "Hand me that plasma cutter," Du Yan called out, wiping sweat from her forehead. Her hands were covered in cuts and burns, but she didn't stop working. She couldn't afford to stop. None of them could. The mining laser she was modifying had been designed to cut through asteroids. She was trying to turn it into something that could punch through the hull of a Devourer ship. It wasn't elegant, and it probably wouldn't work for long, but it was all they had. "Boy," her assistant Jin called from across the bay, "the power coupling won't hold. This thing will overload after 3 shots, maybe 4. Then we make it count," she replied, not looking up from her work. Better 3 shots than no shots at all. Meanwhile, on Earth's surface, Sergeant Minho stood in front of a group of civilians who had volunteered to fight. They were teachers, doctors, farmers, shop owners, people who had never held a weapon in their lives. They clutched basic plasma rifles with shaking hands, trying to learn in hours what soldiers trained for years to master. The rifle gets hot after sustained fire. Minho explained patiently to an elderly man who had been a librarian just days ago. "Count your shots. Make each one matter." These enemies destroyed civilizations that had weapons we can only dream of. "We're going to beat them with determination and smart thinking." A young woman raised her hand. "Sergeant, what if we can't stop them?" Minho looked at her seriously. "Then we make sure they remember they were in a fight. Every shot we take, every second we hold them back, gives our families more time to live. It's worth something." Back on the defense station, Commander Hyenwu sat alone in his quarters, staring at a small recording device. He had started this message to his daughter 3 times and deleted it each time. "What do you say to your child when you might never see her again?" "Hi, Soo-young," he finally began, his voice soft. "Daddy wanted to make you a video in case I can't come home for a while. I know you're scared. I know you don't understand why all the alien friends are leaving. But I want you to know that Daddy and all the other people here are working very hard to keep you safe." He paused, trying to find the right words. "You remember the story I used to tell you about the little mouse who stood up to the big cat? Everyone said the mouse was too small, too weak. But the mouse was brave, and sometimes being brave is more important than being big. It's what we're doing now, sweetheart. We're being brave." His voice caught slightly. "I love you more than all the stars in the sky. Be good for Mommy, okay?" In the communications center, Mira hadn't left her post in 36 hours. Her superior officer had tried to order her to evacuate with the non-essential personnel, but she had refused. "Someone needs to guide our ships home," she had told him. When our fighters are out there in the dark, scared and alone, they need to hear a friendly voice telling them which way to go. I'm staying. Now she monitored dozens of screens showing the frantic preparations happening across human space. On Mars, factories that had been making farming equipment were now producing ammunition. On Europa, the ice miners were placing explosive charges in strategic locations, turning their home into a fortress. On every human world, people were preparing for a war they had never imagined. Control, this is Construction Team 7. A voice crackled through her headset. The orbital defense. Platform is 60% complete. We're working as fast as we can, but we need more time. Keep going, Mira replied. Every gun you get online might make the difference. She switched to another channel. Mining Station Kepler, this is Earth Control. Status report on the minefield. We've got 2,000 mines deployed along the approach routes, came the tired voice of the station commander. They're not military grade, but they'll make some noise when those black ships hit them. Through her window, Mira could see the construction work happening in space around Earth. Massive defense platforms were being built from whatever materials they could find. Cargo ships had been converted into makeshift weapons platforms. Even old communication satellites were being fitted with explosive charges to use as missiles. It looked desperate because it was desperate. The aliens had fled with their advanced shields, their powerful weapons, their faster-than-light technology. Humanity was left with mining tools, construction, equipment, whatever they could build in 72 hours. But they were building. They were fighting. They were not running. Ma'am, Lieutenant Park called from the tactical station. We're getting reports from our scout ships. The Devourer fleet has increased speed, moving faster than our initial calculations. Myra felt her heart skip a beat. How much faster? They'll be here in 48 hours, not 72. We've lost a full day. The communication center fell silent. 48 hours to finish preparations that they had hoped to complete in 72. 48 hours before the enemy that had never been defeated would arrive at Earth's doorstep. Mira keyed her microphone to broadcast on all channels. All stations, all ships, all construction teams. We've just received updated intelligence. Our timeline has been shortened. I repeat, we have 48 hours to final completion. She paused, then continued with a voice that carried across. Human space. I know you're tired. I know you're scared. I know we're asking you to do the impossible, but look around you. Look at what we've already accomplished. In just one day, we've turned our entire civilization into a fortress. We've taken tools meant for building and turned them into weapons for defending. We've shown that humanity doesn't know how to quit. On Luna Station, Duion looked up from the weapon she was building and smiled grimly. Round Earth, construction. Crews worked faster. On the training grounds, civilian volunteers gripped their rifles tighter. In his quarters, Hyan Wu finished his message to his daughter and began reviewing defensive plans. They had 48 hours to prepare for the impossible. It would have to be enough, because humanity had never learned how to run away, Captain. Taman stood on the bridge of the UES Defender, watching the dark shapes emerge from hyperspace like nightmares made real. The Devourer's ships were even more terrifying in person than they had been in the Council footage. Each one was massive, black as the void itself, and moved with a predatory grace that made his skin crawl. Contact. His tactical officer shouted. 12 Devourer vessels dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the new Busan system. They're huge, sir. Through the view screen, Taman could see the lead Devourer ship. It was easily 10 times the size of his cruiser, its hull seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange energy patterns flickered across its surface like veins of lightning. Behind it, 11 more ships arranged themselves in a perfect formation, moving toward the colony with mechanical precision. All ships. This is Captain Taman. He broadcast to his small fleet. 5 human vessels against 12 alien monsters. I've seen worse odds. He paused, knowing it was a lie, but his crew needed to hear confidence in his voice. Remember, we're not trying to win. We're trying to buy time and learn how these things fight. Every second we hold them here is another second for Earth to prepare. The Defender was joined by 4 other ships to patrol corvettes, a cargo hauler that had been hastily fitted with weapons, and an old mining vessel that Captain Yoon had refused to abandon. It wasn't much of a fleet, but it was what New Busan had. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "the colony is requesting permission to evacuate." "Negative," Taemin replied firmly. "Tell them to get to the shelters and stay there. We're going to keep these things busy." The first Devourer ship began to glow with an eerie blue light. Energy patterns raced along its hull, building to something terrible. Min had seen the footage of what these weapons could do, entire space stations simply vanishing into nothingness. "All ships, evasive maneuvers," he shouted. "Don't let them lock onto you." The blue light erupted from the alien ship in a beam of pure destruction. It missed the Defender by mere meters, but Taemin could feel the heat through the hull. Where the beam passed, space itself seemed to ripple and tear. "Return fire," Taemin ordered. "Everything we've got." The human ships opened up with their modified weapons. Plasma bolts, missile salvos, and improvised railgun rounds struck the lead Devourer ship. Most of the attacks simply disappeared against some kind of energy shield, but a few got through. Tiny explosions blossomed on the alien. Hull and Taemin felt a surge of hope. "They can be hurt," he broadcast. "Focus fire on the lead ship." But the Devourers were already adapting. The other alien ships spread out, flanking the human formation with movements too coordinated to be natural. They moved like parts of a single organism, anticipating each other's actions perfectly. The mining ship Prosperity, commanded by old Captain Yoon, suddenly broke formation. "This is Yoon." His voice crackled over the radio. "I'm making a run at their flank. These mining charges might do some real damage up close." "Yoon, no!" Taemin shouted. "That's suicide." Pei became the reply. "But I've been mining asteroids. For 30 years, I know how to make things go boom." The Prosperity accelerated directly toward a Devourer cruiser, her old engine straining beyond their limits. The alien ship turned its weapons on the small vessel, blue beams lancing through space. The first beam missed, the second took off the mining ship's rear section. But Yoon kept flying. At the last second, he triggered every mining charge in his cargo hold. The explosion lit up space like a new sun, and when the light faded, both ships were gone. The Devourer cruiser had been torn in half, its dark hull split open and bleeding strange fluids into space. "First blood to humanity," Taemin shouted. Over the radio, "That's one down." But the victory came at a cost. The remaining Devourer ships turned their full attention to the human fleet, and their response was swift and brutal. Coordinated energy beams struck the corvette Braveheart, and the small ship simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, the next it was empty space. "They're learning our tactics," his tactical officer reported. "They're adapting faster. Then we can change strategy." Taemin watched as the cargo hauler Resilience tried to repeat Yoon's sacrifice run. The Devourers were ready this time. 3 ships focused their fire on the approaching vessel, tearing it apart before it could get close. Captain Park and his crew died without even scratching their targets. "Sir, we're down to 3 ships," his XO reported. "Hull damage on the Defender. The Corvette Phoenix is losing atmosphere." Through his view screen, Taemin could see the colony of New Busan in the distance. 2 million people lived there, families, children, elderly grandparents who had built new lives on this frontier world. The Devourers were moving toward the planet now, clearly intending to consume it as they had. Countless others. "Not today," Taemin whispered. Then, louder, "All remaining ships form up on my position. We're going to ram the lead ship." "Sir," his XO protested, "that's not going to stop them all." "No," Taemin agreed, "but it might slow them down. It might teach them that humans don't die quietly." The Defender and the Corvette Phoenix accelerated toward the largest Devourer ship. Energy beams lanced out, striking both human vessels repeatedly. The Phoenix's hull cracked open, venting atmosphere and crew into space, but Captain Lee kept her flying. "This is Phoenix." Lee's voice came through static and pain. "Tell my wife I love her. Tell Earth we gave them hell." The Phoenix struck the Devourer ship's midsection, her reactor overloading on impact. The explosion tore a massive hole in the alien vessel's hull. Tommen could see internal structures collapsing. Now it was just the Defender against 11 Devourer ships. Tommen's vessel was badly damaged, systems failing throughout the ship, but the lead Devourer's ship was wounded, strange gases venting from the wounds in its hull. "Captain," his communications officer said, "I'm getting a signal. The Devourers are transmitting something. Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was not quite human, not quite machine. "You should have fled, should have run like the others. Why do you resist the inevitable?" Taman smiled grimly and keyed his transmitter. "Because we're human. We don't know how to quit." He set the Defender on a collision course with the wounded alien ship. Round him, his bridge crew worked at their stations, even as explosions rocked the ship. No one asked to abandon ship. "All stations, this is Captain Taman." He broadcast on the emergency frequency. "Tell Earth that the Devourers can bleed. Tell them we hurt the bastards, and tell them." The ship shook as another energy beam tore through the hull. "Tell them that New Busan didn't go quietly." The Defender struck the Devourer ship just below what looked like a command section. The means reactor, overloaded beyond all safety limits, detonated with the force of a small star. When the explosion cleared, both ships were debris floating in space. On Earth, Mira intercepted the transmission from the Devourer fleet. Their communications had changed. No longer the cold, mechanical chatter she had been monitoring. Now there was something else in their signals, something that might have been anger. "Commander Hyanwu," she called urgently. "The main Devourer fleet has changed course. They're no longer taking the slow approach to Earth. They're coming at maximum speed, full force." "How long?" Hyanwu asked. 18 hours. They're angry, sir. Captain Timon and his people hurt them, and now they want revenge." Hyanwu nodded grimly. "Then we'd better be ready to give them a proper welcome." But as he looked at the tactical display, showing hundreds of Devourer ships racing toward Earth, he wondered if 18 hours would be enough to prepare for the ice storm that was coming. The space around Earth had never seen anything like it. Commander Hyanwu stood on the bridge of the defense station, watching as thousands of dark shapes materialized from hyperspace. The Devourer fleet stretched across the star field like a plague of locusts, their black holes blocking out entire constellations. He had prepared for hundreds of enemy ships. Instead, he was facing thousands. "Dear God," whispered Lieutenant. "Park at the tactical station. There are so many of them." Hyanwu keyed his communicator to broadcast across all human frequencies. "All stations, all ships, this is command. The enemy has arrived in greater numbers than anticipated. We knew this was coming. We've prepared for this moment. Today we show them what happens when you threaten humanity's home." The first wave of Devourer ships moved toward Earth's orbital defenses with mechanical precision. Their formation was perfect, their movements coordinated like a single organism. But as they approached the asteroid belt, human fighters began. Emerging from hiding spots among the rocks, "Go Squadron, this is your moment," Hyanwu transmitted. "Hit them fast and disappear." Lieutenant Sujin led 12 fighters out from behind a massive asteroid. Her ship was barely visible against the space debris. Thanks to the improvised cloaking device that engineer Du Yan had built for mining equipment, it wouldn't fool military sensors for long, but it gave them the element of surprise. "Ghost Leader to all units," Sujin whispered into her radio. "Remember, we're gnats biting an elephant. Can't beat them with strength, so we'll beat them with speed and cunning." The human fighters struck like lightning, appearing suddenly to launch their attacks before disappearing back into the asteroid field. Their weapons were crude compared to what the fleeing aliens had possessed, but they were effective. More importantly, they were unpredictable. The Devourers tried to respond with their usual coordinated tactics, but the human fighters didn't follow any pattern. They attacked from unexpected angles, used debris as weapons, and employed strategies that made no logical sense. One pilot, Captain Minsu, actually rammed his damaged fighter into a Devourer sensor array, destroying both his ship and the aliens' ability to target other human vessels. "Their formation is breaking up," reported Lieutenant Park. "They can't coordinate when they can't predict what we'll do." But the Devourers were learning. The second wave of ships adapted their tactics, spreading out to prevent surprise attacks. They began using their superior firepower to simply destroy entire sections of the asteroid belt. Eliminating the human hiding places. "We're taking heavy losses," Sujin reported, her voice strained. "Half of Ghost Squadron is gone. We need a new strategy." That's when the desperate moment came. Sujin's fighter was struck by a Devourer energy beam, sending her ship spinning out of control toward one of the massive alien vessels. Instead of trying to escape, she made a split-second decision that would change everything. "Ghost Leader to command," she transmitted. "My ship is damaged, but I'm going to try something crazy. I'm going to board one of their ships." "Negative," Hyan-Woo responded immediately. "That's suicide." "Maybe," Sujin replied, "but if I can learn something about how they work, it might help us stop them." Her fighter crashed through the hull of a Devourer cruiser, tearing a hole in the alien ship's armor. Emergency systems sealed the breach, but Sujin was already inside, her spacesuit keeping her alive in the hostile environment. What she found inside the alien ship was unlike anything she had expected. Instead of corridors and rooms, the interior was filled with a strange, glowing network of tubes and circuits. Everything pulsed with the same rhythm, like a heartbeat. And everywhere she looked, she saw the same thing: perfect order, perfect coordination, perfect predictability. "Command." She whispered into her radio, "I think I understand. They're not individual ships. They're all connected like parts of one giant machine. That's why they move so perfectly together." She found what looked like a control center, filled with crystalline structures that hummed with energy. As she approached, the structures began to glow brighter, and she could hear something like voices speaking in harmonious unison. "But that's also their weakness," she continued, pulling out her sidearm. "They're all connected, then chaos in one place might spread to all of them." Before Command could respond, Sujin began firing at the control crystals. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The harmonic voices became discordant screams, perfect pulsing rhythm became erratic, and throughout the Devourer fleet, ships began to lose coordination. "It's working," Park shouted from the tactical station. "Their formation is collapsing." But Sujin paid a price for her discovery. The destruction of the control center caused the ship's systems to overload. The last transmission from her suit was barely audible. "Tell everyone, ... make chaos. They can't handle chaos." Back on Luna's station, Engineer Duyan watched the tactical display with growing excitement. "I see what she did," she said to her team. "I don't know. The Devourers are like a computer network. They can process perfect coordination, but they can't handle random input." Working frantically, Dujan began modifying a computer virus she had designed for mining operations. Instead of organizing data, this virus would scramble it, creating pure chaos in any system it infected. "If I can get this into their network," she explained to Hyan-Woo over the radio, "it should spread through their entire fleet. But someone has to get close enough to upload it directly." "I'll do it," Hyan-Woo said immediately. "No, sir," Duyan replied. "This is my job. I designed the virus. I know how to deploy it. Besides, you're needed to coordinate the defense." Before anyone could stop her, Duyan launched herself in a small maintenance pod toward the nearest Devourer ship. The alien vessel's weapons tracked her approach, but she used the debris from earlier battles as cover, weaving between floating wreckage with desperate skill. "Duyan, get out of there," Hyan-Woo shouted over the radio. "Sorry, Commander," she replied, "but someone has to get this job done, and I'm the only one who knows how to make it work." Her pod crashed into the Devourer ship's communication array. She had seconds before the ship's defenses would kill her, but seconds were all she needed. She plugged her virus directly into the alien system and watched as chaos began to spread. The effect was beautiful and terrible. The Devourer ship's perfect coordination dissolved into confusion. Its weapons fired randomly, its engines stuttered, and its communication systems broadcast pure noise. Most importantly, the chaos spread to other ships in the fleet through their network connection. "It's working," Mira shouted from her communication station. "The virus is spreading through their fleet." They're losing coordination. But Du Yan's triumph was short-lived. The Devourer ship's defenses finally located her position and fired. Her last transmission was clear and strong. "Commander, remember what Sujin discovered? They can't handle unpredictability. Use that. Make them face the one thing they can't process: human chaos." As Du Yan's signal went silent, Heian-Wu felt the weight of her sacrifice. But he also felt something else: hope. It found the enemy's weakness, and they had proven that the Devourers could be beaten. All units he broadcast across all human frequencies, we've discovered their weakness. They can't handle chaos and unpredictability. Forget formation flying. Forget coordinated attacks. Do whatever you want, whenever you want. Be as random and chaotic as possible. The battle that followed was unlike anything in military history. Human fighters attacked in completely random patterns. Defense stations fired at random intervals. Even the orbital mines were programmed to detonate unpredictably. The Devourers, masters of perfect coordination, found themselves facing an enemy that made no sense. And slowly, impossibly, the tide began to turn. But the war was far from over. The main Devourer fleet was still approaching, and they would learn from this defeat. The real battle was yet to come. Retried Commander Heian-Wu stared at the tactical display with grim determination. Du Yan's virus had crippled dozens of Devourer ships, but thousands more were still coming. The massive mothership at the center of their fleet was 10 times larger than anything they had faced so far, its dark hull pulsing with the energy that coordinated the entire invasion force. "Mira," he called to the communications officer. "How many ships do we have left?" 43 combat-capable vessels, she replied, her voice heavy with exhaustion. "Most are damaged. We have maybe 200 fighters still operational." Heian-Wu did the math in his head. 43 ships against thousands. Under normal circumstances, it would be suicide. But these weren't normal circumstances, and they had learned something the Devourers didn't expect humans to know. "Here's what we're going to do," he announced to his bridge crew. Du Yan's virus worked because it created chaos in their network. The mothership is the central hub of their entire consciousness. If we can overload it with enough chaotic input, we might be able to shut down their whole fleet. Lieutenant Park looked up from his station. "Sir, that would require getting every remaining ship close enough to the mothership to transmit simultaneously. Most of us won't survive the approach." "I know," Heian-Wu replied quietly. "But if we don't try, Earth falls anyway. At least this way, we take them with us." Mira had been working on modifications to Du Yan's virus, turning it into something that could be broadcast as a signal rather than uploaded directly. "I can modify our communication arrays to transmit pure chaos," she said. "Random data, white noise, anything unpredictable. If every ship broadcasts at once while approaching the mothership, we might overload their central processing system." The plan was desperate, and everyone knew it. Every remaining human ship would have to fly directly at the most heavily defended target in the Devourer fleet, broadcasting chaos signals until they were either destroyed or reached ramming distance. It was a suicide mission disguised as a strategy. "All ships, this is Commander Heian-Wu," he broadcast across the human fleet. "I won't lie to you about what I'm asking. This is a one-way trip for most of us. But Du Yan and Sujin showed us how to hurt them. If we all go in together, broadcasting chaos, we can shut down their mothership and save Earth." The response was immediate and unanimous. Every captain, every pilot, every gunner volunteered for the mission. Captain Song of the cruiser Determination summed up the fleet's response. "We didn't come this far to give up now, Commander. Let's finish what we started." The human fleet began its final approach toward the Devourer mothership. The massive alien vessel responded by directing every weapon in its vicinity toward the incoming ships. Energy beams lanced through space, and human vessels began exploding one by one. But the survivors kept coming, their chaos broadcasts growing stronger as they got closer. Then something impossible happened. "Commander," Mira called out, her voice filled with disbelief. "I'm reading new contacts dropping out of hyperspace. Multiple ships, unknown configuration." On the tactical display, Dozens of new vessels appeared at the edge of the battle zone. Hoyenwu recognized the sleek designs immediately. They were Korathi ships, part of the species that had fled just days earlier. "This is Battle Leader Corvin, of the Korathi fleet." A voice crackled over the communication system. "We received word of humanity's stand against the Devourers. We've returned to fight alongside you," before Hoyenwu could respond. More ships began appearing. The crystalline vessels of the Velden Republic emerged from hyperspace, followed by the bioships of the Zentari Collective. Species that had fled in terror were returning to join the battle. Commander Hoyenwu came another transmission. This one from Veltar of the Veldens. "Our ancestors spoke of a prophecy that when the great darkness returned, young species would show the galaxy how to stand against the inevitable. We believe humanity is that species." Myra was crying as she coordinated the incoming transmissions. "Sir, it's not just the Korathian Veldens. I'm reading Arcany warships, Stellan cruisers, even some species we've never encountered before. They're all coming back." The space around Earth transformed into the largest battle in galactic history. Ships from dozens of species, each with their own unique technologies and fighting styles, joined the human fleet's desperate charge toward the Devourer mothership. The aliens brought their advanced weapons and shields, while the humans provided the chaotic tactics that were proving so effective against the enemy. "All vessels, this is Hoyenwu." He broadcast to the combined fleet. "Welcome to the party. Here's the plan. We broadcast chaos at their mothership while getting as close as possible. The humans will show you how it's done." The coordinated attack was beautiful in its randomness. Human fighters weaved between alien cruisers in patterns that made no sense. Korathi ships fired their weapons at seemingly random intervals. Velden vessels used their crystal technology to amplify the chaos broadcasts. Every species contributed their own form of unpredictability to the assault. The Devourers, masters of coordination and logic, found themselves facing something they had never encountered in 10,000 years of conquest: a truly united galaxy fighting with no coordination at all. Their perfect formation began to collapse as the chaos signals overwhelmed their processing systems. At the center of the final assault was Ambassador Janae, commanding a mixed crew of humans and aliens aboard the diplomatic vessel Unity. Her ship had been hastily armed with whatever weapons they could find, and her crew included species that had been enemies just weeks earlier. "This is Janae to all vessels," she transmitted as they approached the mothership. "When I burned those evacuation orders, I said humanity would not flee. Today I'm proud to say that the galaxy stands with us. We face the darkness together." The Unity led the final charge, her chaos broadcasts joining with hundreds of others to create a symphony of unpredictability that the Devourer mothership couldn't process. The massive alien vessel began to shudder and spark as its systems overloaded. "Working," Park shouted from his station. "The mothership is losing control of the fleet." Throughout the Devourer armada, individual ships began to drift as their connection to the central consciousness was severed. Some fired wildly at their own forces. Others simply went dark, their crews apparently unconscious or dead. But the mothership wasn't finished. In desperation, it began to overload its own power systems. Preparing for some kind of final attack that would destroy everything in the system, including Earth, "All ships pull back," Hoyenwu ordered. "They're going to self-destruct." "Negative," Gane replied calmly. "Unity will complete the mission. Tell my family that humanity never learned to quit, and today we taught the galaxy not to quit either." The Unity, her hull already damaged by multiple energy strikes, accelerated directly toward the mothership's power core. Her chaos broadcasts reached maximum intensity, and the alien vessel's systems finally collapsed completely. The explosion that followed lit up the entire solar system. When the light faded, the Devourer mothership was gone, and with it, the coordination that had made their fleet invincible for 10,000 years. The remaining alien ships drifted powerlessly in space, their crews apparently in some kind of hibernation state. The greatest threat in galactic history had been defeated, not by superior technology or overwhelming force, but by the one thing They couldn't understand or process the chaotic, unpredictable, stubborn refusal of organic life to give up hope. As rescue ships moved to recover survivors, Haiyan-Wu looked out at the combined fleet of species that had once fled in terror. They had returned because humanity had shown them something they had forgotten, that some things were worth standing and fighting for, no matter the odds. The galaxy would never be the same. The silence after the explosion was deafening. "Commander?" Haiyan-Wu stood on his bridge, staring at the empty space where the Devourer mothership had been just moments before. Around Earth, thousands of alien vessels drifted powerlessly, their dark hulls no longer pulsing with the terrible energy that had coordinated their destruction for 10,000 years. "Status report," Haiyan-Wu called out, his voice hoarse from hours of battle commands. Lieutenant Park checked his sensors carefully. The remaining Devourer ships appeared to be dormant. "Sir, no energy signatures, no movement, no communications. It's like they've all gone to sleep." Mira looked up from her communication station, tears streaming down her face. "Commander, I'm getting reports from across the fleet. The chaos broadcasts worked. When the mothership's central AI collapsed, it took the entire collective consciousness. With it, every Devourer ship in the galaxy has gone silent." The combined fleet of human and alien vessels moved cautiously among the disabled enemy ships. Boarding parties from various species explored the interiors of the massive vessels. Finding the same thing everywhere, Devourer crews in some kind of deep hibernation. Their connection to the collective intelligence severed permanently. "This is incredible," reported Dr. Veltar from a Veldan science vessel. "Without their central coordination, the individual Devourers have reverted to a dormant state. They're no longer a threat to anyone." But even as the immediate danger passed, everyone knew the war wasn't quite over. Throughout the galaxy, scattered, Devourer fleets continued their mechanical advance toward populated worlds. Without new orders from the mothership, they followed their last instructions: consume everything in their path. "All vessels, this is Haiyan-Wu," he broadcast to the combined fleet. "We've won the main battle. But there are still Devourer ships throughout the galaxy that haven't received the shutdown signal. We need to track them down and disable them before they reach inhabited systems."
What followed was unlike anything.
In galactic history, the species that had once fled in terror now worked together in perfect coordination. Human tactics merged with alien technology to create the most effective military force the galaxy had ever seen. Korathi stealth ships used human chaos broadcasting techniques. Veldan crystal vessels amplified human-designed virus signals. Centauri bioships carried human boarding parties to disable enemy vessels. The campaign took 3 months, but one by one, every Devourer fleet in the galaxy was found and neutralized. The ancient threat that had terrorized civilizations for millennia was finally, completely defeated, as the last Devourer ship was confirmed disabled. Haiyan-Wu found himself standing in the same command center where this had all begun. But everything had changed. His tactical display now showed not human ships standing alone, but a vast network of allied vessels from dozens of species, all working together. "The last confirmed Devourer vessel has been neutralized," Mira reported with a smile that lit up her entire face. "Commander, it's over. We actually won." Through the observation window, Haiyan-Wu could see ships from across the galaxy. Some were heading home to worlds they had abandoned. Others were staying to help with the reconstruction. All of them were part of something new, a true galactic community born from shared struggle and mutual respect. 6 months later, Captain Sujin stood at the podium of the new Galactic Alliance headquarters. She had survived her boarding action against the Devourer ship, rescued by a joint human Korathi team. Her discovery of the enemy's weakness had earned her rapid promotion and a place in galactic history. "Fellow beings of the galaxy," she began, addressing representatives from over 100 species, "we gather today not as separate civilizations, but as one united community. The threat that once divided us has instead brought us together in ways we never imagined possible." The audience included humans and aliens sitting side by side, species that had been strangers or even enemies now working as partners. In the front row, Commander Haiyan-Wu sat next to Battle Leader Corvin of the Korathi. both wearing the new insignia of the Galactic Defense Force. When the Devourers returned, Sujin continued, every species in the galaxy made the same choice. To flee every species, except one. Humanity chose to stand and fight. Not because they were stronger or braver than the rest of us, but because they had never learned that some battles cannot be won. She paused, looking out at the mixed audience. But here's what humanity taught us: sometimes the impossible just requires someone willing to try. And when that someone stands up, others will find the courage to stand with them. Across the galaxy, monuments were being erected on every world, simple stone markers bearing the same inscription in hundreds of languages. When others fled, humanity stood. When humanity stood, others returned. On Earth, in the rebuilt city of New Seoul, Hyenwoo walked through a park with his daughter Soo-young. She was older now, no longer the frightened child who had watched alien ships flee the system. She had become part of the first generation to grow up in a truly united galaxy. "Daddy?" she asked. "Why did all the alien friends run away at first?" Hyenwoo thought carefully about his answer. "Sometimes, sweetheart, when something seems impossible, people forget that impossible things can still happen. They just need someone to show them how. It's like the story about the little mouse and the big cat. Exactly like that story. Sometimes being brave is more important than being big." Meanwhile, in the communications center of the new Galactic Alliance headquarters, Mira coordinated the peaceful reconstruction of hundreds of worlds. Her screens showed not military movements but supply convoys, medical ships, and construction fleets. Species that had once barely tolerated each other now shared technology, resources, and knowledge freely. "Control, this is the Zentrori Medical. Vessel Healing Light," came a transmission. "We're approaching the Karathi system with supplies for the refugee camps." "Copy that, Healing Light," Mira replied. "You're cleared for approach. The Karathi have been waiting for you." It was a conversation that would have been impossible before the war. It was routine. The galaxy had learned to work together not out of necessity, but out of genuine friendship and mutual respect. The Devourer ships had been converted into research stations and monuments, their dark holes now gleaming with the lights of scientific equipment and memorial displays. The species that had once fled in terror now studied their former enemies, learning from them while ensuring such a threat could never arise again. In his final report to the Galactic Alliance, Hyenwoo wrote, "The Devourers were defeated not by superior firepower or advanced technology, but by something they could never understand, the refusal of organic life to accept the impossible. They were a force of order and predictability. We defeated them with chaos and hope." As he finished the report, Hyenwoo looked out at the stars and smiled. The galaxy was no longer a collection of separate species hiding from each other in fear. It had become something new, a true community united by the understanding that sometimes, when everything seems lost, all it takes is one person willing to stand up and say, "Not today." The Devourers had wanted to consume the galaxy. Instead, they had helped create something better than had ever existed before. It all started with humanity's simple refusal to run away. The greatest victory had come not from being the strongest, but from refusing to give up when everyone else had lost hope. And in teaching the galaxy that lesson, humanity had given them something far more valuable than military victory. They had given them a future worth fighting for. Retroclode can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.